Hi, I'd love to share a couple stories with you that I have found really inspirational and really helpful to me in other parts of my life, and I think that this is the perfect time to be sharing them with you. Normally, when I share a couple of short stories, I give a super long introduction to it, but I'm not going to do that. Now, I'm just going to share one idea and then go into the stories themselves and why I found they were so important. The first thing you have to know about the first story that I'm going to share is that in Jewish mysticism, there's an idea that God created the world through speaking, and God spoke Hebrew, and that God creates the world through the letters of the alphabet, that the alphabet are actually the foundations of the entire universe. So this is to introduce a story by the Baal Shem Tov, who was the founder of the Hasidic movement, who tried to bring Jewish mysticism, to try to bring Kabbalah to everyday people so they could connect on a spiritual way. The Baal Shem Tov was a great, great scholar in Talmud and Torah. He had everything memorized. He really knew it all backwards and forwards. But there's a story that one day he forgot all of his learning. He could not remember anything, and he was very frustrated. He had spent a lifetime of study and now it was gone. So what he started doing is just saying the Aleph Bet to himself over and over again, and after a period of time, all his learning returned. And I think there's a power in this, is that there is so much wisdom within us already that we don't realize we can access. And so what he did is just use the building blocks of creation. He just said the Aleph Bet, and that became a prayer, and that restored him. So I think if we don't know the words to say sometimes, just say the Aleph Bet. It's okay. You don't have to know all the words of the prayer. You don't have to know all the words of the Torah. All you need to do to reconnect to your inner wisdom is just saying the Aleph Bet to yourself. And even if you do just the first few letters, Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet, that becomes a meditation, that becomes a kind of mantra that everyone can do, and you'll start feeling more connected. You won't become a Talmud scholar this way. I'm just letting you know in advance it doesn't really work that way. I've tried it, it doesn't work. But if you say it, you are going to feel better. So that's the first story. The second story is also by one of the early masters of the Hasidic movement, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was known as someone who really, really loved everyday people, loved the Jewish people, always looked for the best in them. But this is one of the stories of how he became that way. He was traveling from place to place giving sermons. He was an itinerant preacher, and he was sitting in services, and the person leading services was having a very hard time with the Hebrew, where they say they're just breaking his teeth on the words, and he's kind of mumbling the words and just not getting really any of the words right. And at the end of the services, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak said, "That was terrible. How could you do that? Why couldn't you get the words right? When you daven, you're supposed to do it properly." And the person leading the services said, "With all due respect, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, when a parent listens to the babble of a child, even though there are no clear words, the parent understands exactly what the child needs. Our parent in heaven understands us even when we babble, even when we can't get the words out. Our parent in heaven knows what's in our hearts." And from that day on, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak never corrected another person's davening, because Rabbi Levi Yitzchak knew that that person's davening was making its way to our parent in heaven in the way that it needed to. So again, if you're having trouble finding the words, just use whatever's in your heart, whatever words you can say. Each one of these words is precious, and you should realize how important they are, both to yourself, to everyone around you, but to connect to the entire universe of people who are trying to get through this together. So I hope that these stories are helpful to you, and that you stay well, and that you feel good.